rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of the World of Gaming. And Dutch, I am excited to be back because we skipped last week because there was simply no news. And we always say if we do a show, we need something that is worth talking about. And this week we are back. Yeah. We have plenty of topics to cover, and I'm really looking forward to it. But first, Dutch, I want to welcome our awesome community. A big welcome to everyone who joins us here live today. And of course, a big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Big welcome. And Dutch, my man, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm actually glad we didn't do a podcast last week because if anyone that follows me on X or Twitter, you might have seen that my OBS decided it just didn't want to work. And I really couldn't be bothered to try and drag all of my assets over to Streamlabs to try and do a podcast from that. So it was a kind of a double happiness last week for skipping, as there was nothing to talk about, and it would have been an absolute nightmare to try and fix that problem beforehand. But for some reason, out of the blue, it started working again. So I'm good.
Which is good to hear. Good to hear. Dutch, my man. All right. All right. So Before we get into all the news of the week, of course, we need to talk about the most important things in gaming, and that are the games. And so we want to know from everyone in the chat, of course, what have you guys been playing? If you're listening after the fact, let us know in the comments on Spotify or Apple Podcast. What have you guys been playing? And Dutch, I know what kept you busy, but tell us.
Yes, I've been playing Avowed, and I finished Avowed. I am going to do a second playthrough because I want to get the different endings. I want to join the Steel Garrote and find out what it's like siding with them for the entire game and being evil. But no, I thoroughly loved Avowed in my time with it. There's no bloat. It's straight through. The side quests are good. All the side quests are linked to the world and the theme and the story, which is good. So there's no issues there. The combat system's great. I like the upgrade system. That was nice and simple. All of the different magic spells and the different books that you can get to do different kinds of magic. Thoroughly enjoyed the game. The biomes and the areas are great. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and it's I'm trying to think now. I did my playtime's 2 days, 13 hours for
nice.
For every side quest done, the full game done, the vast majority of the maps completely explored. I would have had all of the dungeons done, but I only found this afterwards, as you do with missable achievements. One of the caves in one of the missions in an area that you're in now, if you choose to let the guy blow up the cave when you leave it, the cave is no longer accessible and it doesn't show as a marked cave on the map anymore. So the dungeon cannot be accessed and it doesn't count as a cleared dungeon.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I've
God
had
damn
a
it!
similar thing in the second region. I had a similar thing in the second region. I had I'm also trying to do all the side stuff, and I had like 1 or 2 side quests left in the second region.
Yeah.
And I decided to, okay, I'm just gonna do one more mission in the main story. And then something happened in the main story, and that denied me access to the cave that I had to go to do one of the leftover side quests. But actually, the game showed. So because you did this, you can no longer access it. So
yeah. So there's a couple of things like that where I'm like, God damn it. There's like an achievement that you can get for wearing necro pants and the Revenant Bell. So I found the necro pants because that's just a random chest that you can find. But the Revenant Bell you pick up from I think she's called Elias. That has all the dream scourged people on like leashes. And there's a certain option when you talk to her where you can sell your corpse to her when you're dead. That's an achievement, and I missed that. And and when you do that, she gives you the Revenant Bell, which you can wear, which with the necro pants is also an achievement. And now I can't speak to her anymore. She just has a one line, and it doesn't open the options. So I've missed 2 achievements because I just went and did the side quest for her, and I didn't think about the options.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God. So I'm gonna go back. I am gonna play through again because I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's still stuff for me to do, but I've managed to get the vast majority done. So I've done all the bounties. I've done all the side quests. I've cleared all the Ardra. I've done all the treasure maps. So I've literally everything that can be done on that game. I've done it.
Nice.
So no, I absolutely loved it, and I hope that they do another one like they did with Outer Worlds 2, and they slightly expand upon it, and maybe add a little bit more and see what else, because it's no longer going to be the Dream Scourge. We'll see what else we get in the Vowed now. What other new threat appears that we have to take care of?
I mean, Yora has a lot to offer that you could introduce or build upon.
Exactly.
So,
that's the best thing about fantasy worlds, is especially in a fantasy world like Yora, or if you think about Elder Scrolls, they've got so many stories and offshoot stories that could happen in these worlds, or has happened in the lore that they've created. that you can literally go down any route you want. So yeah, it's gonna be good. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice.
So what about you? Because you've been playing it as well, and you're still. I think are you with third biome now?
I just literally finished the third biome. Have arrived at the fourth, but I haven't really done anything in it yet. So that's where I am at. I also try to do similar like you, like all the side stuff, because not only is the writing actually really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the occasional side quest is basically a fetch quest thing, but most of the side stuff is really, really good. So I'm trying to do that as well. But yeah, work kept me rather busy this week. So
yeah,
I didn't have as much time to play as I would have hoped. But yeah, I'm already, I think, I need to check. If I would have to guess, probably about 30 hours or so into the game.
Yeah.
Something in that ballpark, and it is just incredible. I'm a sucker for those high fantasy action RPGs.
What setup have you went for?
That genre.
What setup have you went for?
I started with Sword and Shield,
yeah,
classic, but then I ended up using the wand with a grimoire.
Yeah,
And I honestly was so surprised, and maybe it's just because I'm currently playing the game and loving it so much. Most first-person games that have that kind of melee combat style, don't have that feeling of impact during battle. When you think about games like Skyrim or so, and I know it's a 12-year-old game or so, and it's unfair to compare, but if you think about these first-person melee combat games, it always feels like just you slash through the enemies, and it doesn't feel impactful. But Avowed really nails that aspect. It feels like no matter what you use, whether you use a sword, a spear, even a wand, it feels like bam, you're mighty, you're making impact, and it's probably the best feeling combat in a first-person melee game I have played. And I love that. I really do love that. I love the art style.
Did you stick with that? What was your alternate weapon? Did you use any long range weapons for an alternate, like a bow or anything like that, or not?
And I never really dabble around with bows. No. No, I'm literally just using the wand. I also don't use the second weapon set. Although it's cool to have that.
I do. So I use the grimoire on the left hand.
Yeah.
And I was using an axe, which got all the way to superb, but there wasn't any legendary axes, like one-handed. So I ended up switching to a late game weapon that you get in the final biome if you collect the it's called moon metal or something like that. I forgot what the name of it is. And you go to the forge, and they create two special weapons for you. One of them's a long range gun, and the other one's a sword. I ended up switching to the sword because that was like 260 something damage. So one-handed sword, grimoire, and then the long range weapon ended up being the long range gun as well, which by the way is overpowered. It's like really overpowered. Like the vast majority of enemies, when you've got power shot, is one-shot kill. It's so good. So good.
I have to try that. I just love the wand. I tried dual wanding, but then it is complicated and doesn't feel good to use the actual magic powers. But I have the grimoire of greater elements, I think it's called. And I've maxed out those those powers, and it just feels so badass with it. So yeah, man, really, really loving that aspect. And then again, the art style is just drop that gorgeous. When it was first revealed back in, what was that, 2020? Remember the first initial CGI trailer where they had this dark and gritty art style, and then when they've shown the game and everyone was complaining about, oh, that doesn't look like anything like you've promised and blah blah blah. I don't give a shit. Honestly, it looks just drop that gorgeous, popping colors everywhere. It doesn't go for photorealism, but it's like just a beautiful looking game. And we have gameplay on now because the community voted, of course, for Avowed. And you just look at that, it is just super awesome, gorgeous. And then I really do like that it is not like super open world. More like you have these different biomes and it's an open area and if you have enough side stuff to do and the exploration is there, but it isn't like overwhelming you with a massive map where you have like 2,000 question marks. And
I mean, the last two biomes are bigger. The first two are relatively small.
The third one, I don't know how many biomes are there. I have no idea.
Technically 5, if you want to include the final. Technically 5, if you want to include the final one, because the garden is a biome in itself. Even though it's the point of no return, it is technically, there's a few little bits to do in there. It has 2 party camps. It has loads of chests and things like that. So that's a small biome. But there's four main, and then you've got the garden.
Okay, so I'm not too far. From the
is it the lava area you're going to now?
Yeah,
exactly. That's the final big biome then.
Okay.
There's quite some good side quests in that, and some good dungeons and some towers and things to explore. So you'll enjoy that biome.
So sweet. Yeah, but again, like, it's not super open world, but still feels like kind of an open world, and it has a great pacing. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's everything I wanted it to be. You can tell the essence of Obsidian is just there, and they just are masters of world building, and that's why I'm really enjoying this game.
I like, what I really liked as well, even though the biomes are small, I liked how it wasn't always obvious to get to certain locations, and you had to really think about how to get there. You were like, so there has to be a secret entrance somewhere around here. So you had to go and find, or even if it's a little switch on a door somewhere, and you had to find the little switch and where that was, or the little button, or it might have just needed an explosive to blow a hole in the wall, or blow some cobwebs to get rid of some vines. Like, there's always some way to get somewhere that you need to be, but you have to figure it out. So I really like that. It was well crafted world.
Yeah. Absolutely. So no, man, and the story is really good so far. Not spoiling anything here, but I'm really enjoying it. You can tell you have to make a lot of decisions that will probably lead into something later if you know Obsidian games.
Definitely. I had to look at all of the alternate endings, and obviously there's 4 main endings really, and you can interchange the last 2 depending on what you want to do. But all of the choices you make throughout the game, I think there's something like 50 or 60 variants of endings that you can see in your last bit when it's giving you a rundown of what you chose and how it affected everything, including Kai's quest and Kai's companion side quest, and Yatzli's and the dwarfs and Gatza's side quest. It's all of their choices and what you do with them and how you interact with them and all their side stuff all goes towards different endings. So the rundown of my game will not be the same as the rundown of your game, depending on what choices we've made, which is I like that. I like that.
I really do. Yeah. So no, man, I'm having a blast here with Avowed, and I see also a lot of positivity on social media around it.
It tends to be everyone. I've seen everyone who's played it is loving it. They said it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's not the best thing they've ever played, but they haven't been disappointed with the game that they've played. For me, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was really looking forward to this anyway, and it was exactly what I needed. I said beforehand, I needed something to scratch that Skyrim itch. That wasn't Skyrim. And I got it. I got it. It was a great world, great, well crafted. But yeah, the positivity's been great to see, and I think every new person who goes on and tries it actually really enjoys it. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. My only minor criticism about it is the variety of enemies. It feels like you're always battling more or less the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you especially notice that towards the end.
Yeah.
Only time it changes up a little bit is the garden. You get a couple of new enemies in the garden, more difficult enemies.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, up until then, no, there's nothing really. Yeah, I think that's. But again, it's the first big open world version of this universe. So let's see them expand on it next time and add more enemy varieties. I think that's probably some of their feedback. Probably will be that.
Yeah, and I mean, we learned this week, that Microsoft didn't consider it as a AAA, big budget game. It was still considered more
AA.
AA, yeah. And that's super impressive.
I mean, it's because and we only found out as well that the team for Avowed was only 85 people, because of course they've got another section of the team, another section of Obsidian working on Outer Worlds.
Of course, otherwise they wouldn't be able to release that this
exactly.
year, right? So, yeah, man, it is a fantastic experience. But let's have a look what the community is actually playing. So, Hertog Vin, Vinny boy from the Netherlands, is playing Tales of Arise and of course FIFA 25.
Okay.
So
you're still terrible at FIFA. That's great.
I don't get that. It's like I play everything except sports games.
He's as terrible as his team.
Yeah, probably. Dustin Lambert plays Diablo 4 and is leveling up the Paragon system and says it's a really big grind. Man, I haven't played Diablo 4 ever since Path of Exile 2 came out.
I know, you dropped it. Dropped it like it's hot.
And I dropped that. Yeah, I know. Now I finally got over my Path of Exile addiction.
Yes.
Thanks to Avowed.
Thanks to Avowed.
Hallelujah. Then the Big Bridge is playing Spiritfarer. Okay. Hope you enjoy it. I haven't seen anyone play that.
That's an older indie game, an older indie game. It's on Game Pass. It's actually really good if you haven't had a chance to play it and you get time. Probably a good one for your handheld.
Could be. BT Maverick also playing Avowed, which you cannot go wrong, right? And I think Mr. Glass also says he just finished Avowed. Had a lot of fun of playing it. Fantastic. Did we miss anyone in your chat, man?
Yeah, Stu has also been playing some Avowed. And some Black Ops and some of the new Watch Dogs game in Game Pass. So obviously, the last Watch Dogs that was released, that's just went into Game Pass. He's been playing a little bit of that, but Avowed, Black Ops, and the last Watch Dogs that released.
Sweet. Good stuff, Dutch. Good stuff. With that, let us move into some of the news of the week. And Dutch, I first want to talk to you about Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So, not good news, actually.
No.
Right? Wonder Woman got cancelled because Warner Brothers actually closed 3 game studios. Yeah, and Monolith Productions, which were working on Wonder Woman, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers San Diego. And with closing down, Monolith, right? They also canceled the Wonder Woman game. We also found out that apparently it looked gorgeous, had 2 reboots, and during its development, the Nemesis system didn't come together, apparently. So yeah, man, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm not going to be negative about the game itself, other than Wonder Woman is not something I would have played, regardless. Uh, no doubt it would have been great, but as everybody probably knows that watches this podcast frequently by now, I am not a big Marvel fan.
Yeah.
So, so superhero games on top of my list, and especially when I have to buy them. I mean, I got Spider-Man on the cheap when that was on PlayStation. I wouldn't have paid full price for it. It was okay, not my cup of tea though. Guardians of the Galaxy is about as far as I've went with that kind of game, but I mean, on the flip side though, it's horrible to hear of even more studios being closed down, especially ones with the pedigree of the likes of Monolith. Um, so I mean, we've been saying it for quite a while though. Sometimes studio purchases are a necessity in order to keep them alive. We've seen that over the years with some of Microsoft's acquisitions. If you have a look at
True
Ninja
that.
Theory, that kept them alive. If you have a look at uh, what's his face that created Psychonauts, that kept them
Um,
alive.
um,
Yeah,
Embarrassing.
Double
To
Fine,
blank on the
Double Fine.
Double Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, if they weren't purchased, that was them down the drain as well. So sometimes some of these, I think somebody needs to go and buy what's remaining, or even if they approach Monolith and the closed down studio and snap them up and get them, say, okay, he's on going anyway. We're gonna buy you out. We're gonna keep you on board. And we're going to create games for us. And you have to say, because of Microsoft's strategy, it needs a Microsoft to buy it, and that's mainly because Microsoft's just putting everything everywhere now. It doesn't affect competition. It means that they can stay afloat. It provides them security, and it means that, of course, their games will still be produced for everybody.
Yeah.
So there's going to be no issues there. And sometimes you don't want it to happen because, of course, we don't want every studio owned by conglomerates. But when independents can't afford to run them anymore, and they're not profitable for them because they don't have trillions of pounds backing them from a large corporate organization like the likes of Microsoft, or even billions with the likes of Sony or Nintendo, then they just can't keep them going when they haven't produced anything. And the likes of Monolith, etc. God, how long has it been since they've released a game? It's been a long time.
When was there a Lord of the Rings game? I want to say 2019 or so.
Yeah.
Earlier today, Bloomberg published an article about it being in development since 2020, and I mean,
but even if if it was in development from 2020, so what was the last? Did you see the last game was released in 2019?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's like going on 6 years. It's not the longest, but that's only not long if you're part of one of the big three.
Yeah.
If you're an independent and there's no other means of making money coming in the background, because none of these create multiplayer games, you have to churn out things pretty quick. Otherwise, it's going to really impact finances.
Yeah, I mean we've had a similar discussion. I think during last week or the last podcast. On Sony canceling a game after 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, how expensive that was. 5 years of salary for the entire team, of infrastructure, building costs, and everything.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money down the drain. So I always wonder, I understand that maybe after a year or so, things don't come together and you cancel a game.
Yeah.
But after having worked on it for 5 years, I mean, you gotta make some money somehow. That's so weird. And I was actually really looking forward to see that, because I love the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games really much. I thought they nailed the combat. I mean, obviously it was very much borrowing from the Arkham games, you know, the free flow combat system. But with the Nemesis system, they really had something going. Was it flawless? No, absolutely not. But it was something very unique.
Yeah.
You know, something you don't find in every game. And I still wonder why nobody has basically copied that or innovated on that.
You know, Warner Brothers have got the patent on the Nemesis system until 2035.
They do have that. That's very true. But you know how it is with these kind of patents.
Yeah.
There's always a way. If you innovate a little on it, and then you're good. You know.
Yeah.
So, I was actually looking forward to see that system return in a game, and since they have nailed the Shadow of Mordor and War game, I'm a little bummed, man, that we will never see what they would do with a Wonder Woman game, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just always so confused if after like plus minus 5 years now, right? You cancel such a game. Sony has done that with many games in recent months. It's so weird to see because then you don't have to wonder why they need to shut studios down, right? If you don't have like quality insurance early in production, but let a developer do 5 years something that doesn't come together, it's just weird to me to see, right? But yeah, Dutch, Wonder Woman. Let us talk about a game that is actually probably going to come out really soon, and that's Tony Hawk.
Yes,
man.
Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
A lot of teasers, a lot of...
Very soon, actually. Very soon it's gonna come out. Apparently, according to them, it's April, so could it be a shadow drop? I mean, for Game Pass users, it will be.
Man, you're botting really hard.
Strange. It's all right on my end. I don't know why it's botting. Can you hear me all right now?
Okay. It's better now.
That's really weird.
Would you just repeat what you just...
Yeah, so very strange that it should be for... Actually, I'm going to turn you... Because I had your podcast on in the background as well, just in case. I'll turn that off. Yeah, it was absolutely out of the blue, but the date is advertised on the side of buses, etc. Kind of goes to maybe releasing in, I think it's April. I think they mentioned 3rd of April. I think it was, or March, was it?
They have been teasing a lot
4th of March.
Pictures and buses. Yeah, 4th of March.
Yeah.
No, pardon me.
Yeah, I think it is.
I always get confused because the Americans, they put the month first and then the day. Right. I'm gonna
have a look at the thing I shared earlier because this is a London one. So in the London one, it says 4th of the 3rd. Obviously, they're not going to use the American thing on a London bus. So 4th of the 3rd, so 4th of March.
4th of March.
Yeah.
Which is basically like on Tuesday next week.
Tuesday.
Right?
Yeah. Shadow drop a new Tony Hawk.
Tuesday. Yeah. So Shadow drop a new Tony Hawk since it is now Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
Activision belongs to Microsoft. I would assume it's gonna be a Game Pass drop.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? And man, I love Tony Hawk. I played the remaster or remake that came out a couple of years ago
good.
from 1 and 2. Like so excessively. I'm a sucker for Tony Hawk. I loved Tony Hawk back in the days when it came out on the OG PlayStation.
Getting the high scores.
The high scores, the music, you know. I love that music in that game.
Goldfinger Superman.
One of the best soundtracks ever.
Goldfinger Superman. Everyone remembers that. That's like the soundtrack of Tony Hawk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True that. So yeah, it would be so cool if that is really what we are all hoping, that Tony Hawk 3 and 4 are getting like the same remake treatment that 1 and 2 got a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, they are teasing so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It was kind of, it was like hinted upon for
having issues. I'm not sure if my
I think it might be your end,
or anything is coming through.
You can hear me. I can hear you.
I can now hear you. It says OBS has lost the connection.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. It's still good on my end, so I think it's your internet today.
I think it could be my lines. I'm definitely gonna turn off the video.
Yeah, it's your stream's crashing hard today. Oh, Boxy.
Real quick.
How the turns have tabled. Oh dear.
Damn it. I hate technical issues like that.
Yeah. How the turns have tabled, Boxy. It's your turn now. Oh no. It's still on, it's just like buffering big time.
So
yeah. Well, it's yeah. Yeah, it's still on, it's just buffering big time. I think you might be okay.
Huh.
I think you might be okay now.
Maybe you also turn off your video just to save bandwidth.
For your bandwidth.
My bandwidth. It still has to come through, so...
There you go. There you go. We are just floating heads today.
Floating heads for a little bit until hopefully the line stabilizes. I don't have like internet issues that often. Actually, I don't have fast internet, but I at least have very stable internet. So
it's all right. By the way, my OBS has just went a bit weird there as well. So unless it's just an OBS issue.
I hope not. I hope not.
Mine literally dropped like 1,000 frames for no reason there. And then it spiked back up again and went normal. I was like, don't you dare.
Okay.
Don't you dare.
Don't you dare.
Never mind. But
that's what happens. So I'm not sure if people can...
I think Activision are trying to silence us. Stop talking about Tony Hawk.
Activision, yeah. They don't want us to talk about Tony Hawk. It's probably... I don't know. So, people in the chat, please let us know if we are coming through again, because
I'm watching it now, so I can see that it seems to be.
I don't know. So...
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you seem to be okay at the minute.
All right. So, let's see and fingers crossed that the line is more stable now, and we can continue our discussion on Tony Hawk. So yeah, man, a lot of teasers. Like you said, there have been buses in London. Tony Hawk has like posted photos of the number 3 and 4 with him in the background. Yeah, and it's like a lot of teasers. So everything points towards that. And wouldn't it be bonkers if Microsoft just drops that out of nowhere, right? So do you actually think they're going to release it in a couple of days, Tuesday next week?
I can see that happening. Yeah, I can see that happening. Especially, I don't think it's going to be like super high price, because obviously, first of all, it's going to be in Game Pass day one, so everyone on PC and Xbox can play it, and on the cloud. Great. Second of all, with it being a remake/remaster, potentially, of an old game, unless it's a brand new one, that's going to be surprising. But if it's a 3 and 4 remake, for instance, I can't say being super high priced either. I can say it'd be like 30, 40. In which case, then it's also going to be pretty relatively cheap, and it's just after payday at the very beginning of the month. So it's also catching a good time for when people actually have money still, not like the tail end of a month when people are still like, oh, I'll just wait for the end of the month. So I can see it happening. First of all, it's not a game that needs much giant publicity for it. It's not like a brand new game you need to advertise. Like a boatload. It's Tony Hawk. Like,
Yep.
that's pretty much all you need to say. New Tony Hawk. Hey, I'm getting on that.
Hey,
And everyone will pick it up.
Yeah. I mean, it could also very much be that it's just the announcement on that day, and it will come out.
Do you think they'd
somewhere
put
else.
posters on the sides of buses for the announcement?
True that. That is very true. That
Yeah.
is very, very true. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's if that actually happens, and I mean everything points towards it. How nuts is the 2025 of Xbox, right? They just shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden, the remake, during the developer direct a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
We had Avowed launch, the Avowed launch 2 weeks ago. We have now Tony Hawk, and the month after South of Midnight, and 33 Obscure. Yeah, and
Oh, I can't wait
and
for that one.
Doom.
That's my next big one.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome, man. And if you just if now Xbox is gonna like shadow drop stuff like Tony Hawk remakes just out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
Who isn't to say that that the long rumored like Oblivion remake, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to shadow drop, especially since they've made like a little bit more room towards the end of the year, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And that's another news item of the week, right?
Yeah.
Fable got delayed.
It did.
It did. It was kind of a weird thing to announce that during this weekly official Xbox podcast, right?
Yeah.
Just more or less on a side note. But hey, they did show around about 45 seconds of new gameplay.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've properly shown the chicken kicking.
Yes. So you get really, really wound up for that kick as well, actually. It's like a football kick.
I mean, the
taking a goal
animation work
kick.
is insanely
Yeah.
good. It looks phenomenal. I think it's also the first time we've seen like the horseback riding,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As well as the
A bit more the combat.
more
Yeah.
bit more combat, because we've seen like animations from combat, but this time we at least saw her swing like a hammer or something, you know.
Yeah.
And it looks just phenomenal. It's not just the visual fidelity, yeah, like it looks super dense, super detailed, but the animation work is exceptional. And given that Playground Games has quote unquote only like developed racing games so far, this was one of the things I was wondering. I was always wondering how good are they going to be in like displaying characters, animations, and everything, as well as the writing, because that's also something we don't know. How good is Playground Games in writing and storytelling and things like that, right?
Yeah.
We know they can build gorgeous worlds. We know that they nail gameplay aspects just super well. But how good are they with displaying characters, displaying and telling stories, right? We still don't know really much about the story, but the animation work is outstanding. It's drop that gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bummed. I mean, I'm always all for delaying games if it benefits the game,
Yeah.
you know, and the game needs more time. Yeah, please do it. Better to release a proper game rather than a broken one. But I was so looking forward to play it this year. And I remember that just in the beginning of this year when we did our outlook for 2025, we both said Fable is our most anticipated game this year, even before GTA. And now it's moved out. And yeah, man, I'm all for delaying games if they need it, but man, I was so looking forward to it. And one last thing that I'll hand the mic to you. after 8 years of development, and it's really been 8 years, right? In 2017, Playground confirmed to us, early 2017, the rumors have started that Fable was handed to a British studio. We didn't know which studio. A little later that year, somewhere in, I can't really remember, somewhere in summer 2017, unrelated to Fable, Playground Games announced that they are working on an action RPG, actually. So it's been 8 years, man. 8 years in development, and they still need a little more time.
Yeah.
So
you know what it is? I don't
what are your
think
thoughts?
it's that specifically they need a little more time. I think looking at their window and their games that they've got coming out this year, and potentially what they might show off in June, and what's happening in the tail end of the year with GTA, with Rockstar confirming that they're very confident it's still coming the tail end of this year. I just don't think they want to be anywhere near a GTA release.
Especially not with such a high-profile release. Because I think Fable is like... I mean, Starfield was also very, very high-profile, huge AAA game and everything. But with Fable, it's their next big
RPG
game.
And it's getting a full reboot.
RPG.
Yeah.
Full reboot. I mean, a lot of people don't even remember Fable since it's been so long. There has been an entire generation of new gamers grown up, never knowing what Fable actually is, right? It's been that long. So, and with that, they have this massive, not just drop that gorgeous game, but you know that it is very, very ambitious, and that it will offer tons of different gameplay mechanics, like the Fable games always have. An open world that is very much depending on your choices, and gonna be there's gonna be a lot of different ways how you can play that game and make decisions and everything. And so I understand that you want to move out of the way this fall with GTA, and then they themselves, they have, of course, Call of Duty coming, and Outer Worlds 2 still coming in the second half.
It would have been 3 Western RPGs in 1 year, and to be fair, that's a lot.
True that. And I think Outer Worlds is probably better suited against GTA, just because expectations aren't... How do I phrase that without sounding disrespectful to Outer Worlds 2, which I'm very much looking forward to. But you know, since obviously Microsoft doesn't consider that to be a massive AAA launch, you can push that or move that a little better around. But Fable is probably gonna be like a massive game, 60, 70, 80 hours, if not a 100-hour game, right? And you don't want to put that somewhere close to the other 100-hour game that is GTA, right? Yeah.
You just don't want it anywhere near GTA. You don't. I mean, I am gutted, because Fable was my biggest game this year. It was the most anticipated thing I was looking forward to. However, I also understand that nobody, especially from a business standpoint, what you don't want to do is do what, unfortunately, Sony have done on multiple occasions, and release a game right next to the likes of an Elden Ring, or release the game right next to the likes of a GTA or a Call of Duty. You just don't do that. It's absolute suicide for a game to release next to one of those juggernauts. You just don't do it, because it will not end well. And I think every studio is kind of contemplating that. Everyone's just waiting for that. And I think they want to just be put out of their misery so they can kind of go, okay, so when can we actually release our game? The back end of this year. And I think Rockstar need to be a little bit more open with that, so people know what they need to do. And it's good for Rockstar, because Rockstar have kind of got the entire industry on tenterhooks at the moment.
True that.
Waiting to see what they're doing so they can plan around it. But yeah, it's a shame on one front, because of course naturally we all want to play it. And on the other side, it's going to get a bit more time to cook and a little bit more time to polish, and they've got a little bit because it was only coming late this year anyway. So I'm guessing it's going to be the very beginning of next year. We're going to get a probably an actual release date early 26 in maybe at the June showcase, and they'll give away maybe a date then, and just say okay, it's coming out April or March or whatever it is next year. It could be the March, the Avowed of the beginning of the year, basically like a February game.
Maybe February.
Yeah.
I could see that. I would assume so, honestly, that they are not going to move it out an entire year and put it also in fall season 2026.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to think, if Tony Hawk drops this year, you've had Avowed, you've got Doom, you've got South of Midnight, you've got Outer Worlds 2, and a bunch of other things kind of releasing alongside that from your own studios. So for us, Fable's probably the one where you think, I'd rather you'd moved Outer Worlds to next year and we got Fable this year, but but from also seeing the new footage, it looks phenomenal. The combat looks fluid. The game looks, like I say, the visual fidelity is just unbelievable, but it's Playground Games, so kind of expect no less. And yeah, there is dark and gritty bits in there, and there's nice vibrant areas, and there's giant chicken fight, and there's like loads of different bits. So I mean, yeah, I just can't wait to see more of it. And I think, yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Look, but I personally think it's only delayed because they just don't want to get it in the way of GTA, and they can't officially put a date on it because Rockstar haven't put a date on it either. And if you have a look at the tail end of the year, no one's really put on a date for games then. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing. They're like, come on.
Yeah. There's barely any game in after the summer break with a date. It's always just this holiday season, right?
Yeah.
And there are just no dates. That's just due to GTA, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, there's also I've seen a lot of different thoughts on it, and I mean, some of them could be like, I've seen, for instance, the idea of it being delayed because a couple of other games that were supposed to come out in 26 might have moved to 27 internally, and so you kind of look at it and say, hey, we have enough this year, and if we move it from, I don't know, November to February, it'll help us to like stretch things out more properly, because it is a very, very dense thing. And I also think we don't know every game just yet. I mean, we just talked about Tony Hawk. Who isn't to say that they have another arrow in their quiver for an unannounced game? Yeah, there's the Oblivion remake. There is the rumor. Yeah, there is the rumor of the Gears collection.
Yeah,
there's so many other things from bigger and smaller studios within Microsoft that could potentially still get an announcement and come out this year. So yeah, I mean, this year is such a stacked year, and they themselves still have the Call of Duty release this year, of course, this fall.
Yeah,
they will have Outer Worlds 2. So there's no real need for Fable, right? To keep that momentum going of a continued release, like getting a proper game every other month.
It would be if they did it the way that they're doing it now. It's almost a game a month. so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. In the first half, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
We've got Ninja Gaiden in January.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Avowed in February.
Potentially Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk then in March, and then we've got 2 games in April.
Yeah.
With South of Midnight and Claire Obscure, right?
Yeah.
And Expedition 33, and then in May we've got Doom, and
Yeah.
that's just bonkers.
And then
bonkers
obviously for
there.
those looking forward to it, Monster Hunter Wilds is tomorrow. And then
Yes, yes.
and then people are still playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, and then you've got Atomfall dropping in there.
Yeah,
There's just so many games coming out. It's
big games, right?
Yep.
Kingdom Come is 100-hour game, about not 100-hour game, but still 40,
yeah, at least 40, 50 hours. Yeah.
Depending, of course, how you play it.
Yeah.
And then you have Assassin's Creed coming really soon. You have Monster Hunters. You have Yakuza, which is also a massive game, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But
It's
a
just
good thing
insane.
to complain.
Yeah.
Shall we try to turn on the cameras again?
Let's try. Let's try and show our beautiful
Let's
faces.
Let's try.
And
And hope the bandwidth is
It'll
going
immediately
to be
crash.
able to handle it. Crash. Bam. So, Dutch, I just mentioned it. Assassin's Creed Shadows is also making some headlines, not in the best way though. Apparently, the game has leaked, and people are playing it on streaming services. So the entire game, not just like someone spoiled the story, but apparently the game is out there and people are playing it. And Ubisoft put out a warning that take it with a caution, because obviously the version that people are playing right now hasn't received the day one patch.
Yeah.
So it's just weird to me. Ubisoft's probably biggest game, right?
Yeah.
The Assassin's Creed IP is massive, and this is the first proper new full entry after Valhalla. I mean, there was Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was kind of a smaller release in between the big releases, and everyone's excited for the Japanese setting, a setting that people have been waiting for in an Assassin's Creed game for a long time, right? And it just can't get out of the negative headlines. So what are your thoughts on this thing, Assassin's Creed leaking?
Yeah, I mean, just before that, I thought I was going to have a heart attack there because my OBS just dropped frames again. OBS is going to be the death of me. I was like, don't you dare. Behave yourself. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for them, but I think I'm not sure whether or not it'll truly affect them anyway. I think at this point, there's been so many people kicking up a fuss about it in different ways, with the regards the characters and things like that, and
Yeah.
and the delays, the numerous delays that the game's had, and I think it's at a point now where whoever's still going to pick it up are going to pick it up. Whoever wasn't going to pick it up, still not going to pick it up, and it'll just do as good as it was going to do. I'm one of those that's not really in the mood for a Ubisoft open world at the minute.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not really in the mood for a Ubisoft open world at the minute. You know exactly what you're going to get with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know exactly. So I know right now I'm not in the mood for a Ubisoft open world right now. I will play it at some point because I was looking forward to this game, but with all the other games that are coming out right now, I've just played a lovely RPG, so I'm fine with that. The next RPG I really want to play is Claire Obscura Expedition 33. That's the next on my RPG bucket list. I don't want to jump in with another especially after playing those. I don't want to get another RPG in the way anytime soon. I want to be like, right, okay, I've just RPG'd twice with 2 decent RPGs. I'm fine. I want to play something else. And thankfully we've got the likes of Doom, and we've got
South of Midnight.
Yes, South of Midnight, which are not RPGs.
Yeah.
So we can kind of enjoy them and switch off for a bit there. And of course I've got We've got Hazelight's game coming out as well next week. Of course, Split Fiction, which I'm looking forward to. So, yeah, there's just so many RPGs this year, and it's not one that I'm going to jump on immediately. I will play it in the future. I will get it at some point, but I don't think the leaks.
I cannot wait.
I don't think the leak's going to hurt them personally. It looks, from what I've seen, it looks good.
It does look good. It does really look good, and I do like the Ubisoft games. I just do. I know that they are not the most innovative games ever made.
Yeah.
Their formula is just strong. I do enjoy them. And Assassin's Creed Shadows does look like, at least if you play as, what is she called again? As the lady in the game, you get more focus again on stealth, which I always do enjoy in Assassin's Creed games. Yeah, that was like my one nitpick about Valhalla.
Yeah,
it didn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game anymore because you were just raiding villages and going in guns blazing, and it's. So I'm really looking forward to it. I cannot wait. But I do agree. I don't think that these streams and leaks of the game really will hurt the game in any way, shape, or form. People have made their mind up about Ubisoft games. Either you enjoy them, and the people who do enjoy it will gonna play it, and doesn't matter whether it got leaked right now.
I think
it's still a weird thing.
Got Gina in the chat here just saying, we've got Gina in the chat just saying he's burnt out on Ubisoft for a while now, and it's because mainly you know exactly what you're gonna get. Things don't really change. It is just another Ubisoft title in a different setting, and they usually always play relatively the same, and you know what you've got to do. So it's kind of just, I'll get to it. There's no like big hype around them because you know exactly what you're going to get. It's not like it's something new or something different.
Yeah.
So
that is true. That is true. I'm still debating whether to buy it or subscribe again to Ubisoft Plus. I did that with Star Wars Outlaws, where I didn't buy the game, even though I really did enjoy it. Star Wars Outlaws was a fun game. But yeah, saving a little money, subscribing for a month or so.
Yeah.
And getting the crossplay, actually, that is one of the things, to play anywhere kind of thing, If you subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, you can have cross saves across PC. For me, mainly the Rock Alley and the console. And that's really an advantage you don't get if you spend the money and buy it.
Yeah.
It's just, it shows you how much value there is actually in Play Anywhere. And I really hope that the rumors are true, that Microsoft is going to make that like more or less the standard with the next Xbox generation. Because, yeah, man, if you can subscribe for Ubisoft Plus for $15 a month, play the entire game and get cross progression across all devices you own for $15 a month, rather than buying the game for $80, right?
Yeah.
And you get access to the premium deluxe edition, so you could basically getting the €100 version. And if you just buy it on console, you're not getting the Play Anywhere out of it. It's kind of weird. Feels weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Dutch, let us move on from Assassin's Creed. Let's talk about Xbox some more. Two more Xbox topics on the list today. Yeah, the first is there was like an interview with Satya Nadella, and because Microsoft or the Xbox division has announced that they have a new generative AI for game development called Muse. Yeah, it's an AI mode that is apparently really, really good. Satya had to say the following. It's just very cool. One thing that we wanted to go after was using gameplay data that you can actually generate games that are both consistent and then have the ability to generate the diversity of what that game represents and then are persistent to user mods, right? So that's what this is. In fact, when Phil Spencer first showed it to me, where he had an Xbox controller, and this model basically took the input and generated the output based on the input, and it was just consistent with the game. So obviously, he in his position, he'll always phrase this like the next big thing, that
Yeah.
it really does sound. Also, if you listen to developer voices and so on.
I mean, on the back of, I think this is on the back of an even bigger announcement that they made. Obviously talking about quantum computing announcement that they've made there last week.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I mean, this brings up this discussion again about generative AI in game development, right?
Yeah.
And apparently they have something on their hands that is capable of looking at a game and generating output that is consistent with what's already there. So what are your thoughts on this, on Muse, the generative AI model there?
You know what it is? It depends on how it's utilized. Because I've always been, like I've said before, with AI, it's as long as it's an assistant to the people that are there to help make their jobs more efficient, and speed up the work that they're doing, and they can go in and make refinements, then great. If it's a means to an end of removing game developers so that they can cut jobs and save money by using and replacing people with AI, then no. Yes, we have to move forward, but ultimately you lose the human touch from games when everything's AI based, and you don't want that. No matter how much these people try to keep telling you that AI is the next big thing, it's been proven even in AI cars without extensive testing that can still end up crashing into things or malfunctioning, or things go wrong or accidentally swerve into people, or because they can't look at the. It's like, okay, AI thinks that, okay, we're going to miss this pedestrian, but we're going to go head first into a car on the other side of the road, and that's the best option. That's unfortunately not what and the AI can make mistakes, and unfortunately, unless there is the human touch there, and it will always have to have the human touch to refine things and make sure it feels like it's still created by a human. Same would go for storytelling and everything like that. Like, there's certain things that a game would, like AI wouldn't be able to create, that would go into the storytelling, like scene setting. So they could create, for instance, the AI could absolutely create a massive landscape that looks beautiful, no doubt. On the flip side, what it won't do is, for instance, in Avowed, where you go into some random little area and there's a tiny cave and there's a dead guy there, but right next to him there's a note and it tells you his little story. And there's around that cave, there's little things of like a little campfire where he's had food, and there's a little bed that he's set up, and there's like his weapons stored against the wall. Like, there's little things there that set a little scene as to what happened to that guy that AI would not do, because it wouldn't think, oh, let's set this scene, let's have this little note about what happened to this guy and things like that. It just wouldn't think that way.
Wouldn't do it yet. That's the thing about AI, right? It's progressing
But
so fast.
it's the thing is, I don't think it would have the mind in it to think, you know, what would really be cool here. I think what would really be cool here is this.
While I do agree with you, that AI is probably far away of putting soul into a game.
Yeah,
right.
That's the thing.
Where, if you think about the best games you've played, it's always like one of probably my most favorite game ever is obviously The Witcher 3. If you think about that and how much you just feel the love and passion of the developers when playing that game and what they put into this world, and that is definitely something. and you said so many things. I don't even know where to start.
I think you
Is
summarized
about
it well.
people
The soul. I
letting
just
people?
don't think AI would bring the soul into the game that a human touch would.
I agree. I agree there. Although also think AI will make a lot of progress there as well over the next years. That from a lot of the games that we usually play, not everything is like on the level of a Witcher. You know what I
Yeah, of
mean?
course.
And so it's not every game has this same sense of soul.
Yeah.
And if for that reason, I'm not sure how much AI can actually already do or will be able to do in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And you also touched upon, of course, this is the biggest argument people always bring up when talking about AI, especially in regards with game development. Yeah, we don't want people to lose their jobs and everything. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I also look at history, and we've always had that going way back in history to the industrial revolutions. Everyone was like afraid if machines can wove wool automatically, everyone is going to be unemployed. And this is always when a big technology in society comes up, people are afraid about losing their jobs because a certain skill set that you might have today might not be necessary tomorrow.
Yeah.
But at the end, I think that will adjust, and people will just need to focus on learning different skill sets that cannot be done by AI. And
I think there's always
I'm
like
not,
my point is
I
there's
know I'm sounding like an advocate pro AI in
I think
game development.
my only point is there's always going to need a human touch on the end of that AI because AI will get things wrong, absolutely will,
That is true.
and they'll have to
Absolutely.
iron some things out because AI will absolutely be able to generate things, but there's going to be anomalies in that generation where you go
Yeah.
to a point in the map and for some reason there's like a rock sticking into another rock that just doesn't
Yes.
look right, and you're like,
Right, and the world will not feel consistent,
Yeah.
and so on. There's plenty of stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff, but apparently this new model, the new AI model from Microsoft Muse, is gonna resolve a lot of these problems. And at the same time, people are complaining. We just talked about it. Fable took 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's still not coming out. It's coming out next year, so 9 years. We are always talking about this. Oh, it takes so long to make games these days, and studios are getting shut down left and right
Yeah.
because they simply cannot afford the costs anymore
Yeah.
of making a game for 5, 6, 7 years, right? And so obviously developers, publishers will have to look into how to speed things up, right?
I think
How
the
to make
only
it more
way, I think
efficient.
one of the ways to speed, especially, this is what we're going to have to look at here, but some companies might have to look at making more sequels to games. And the reason that will speed up certain areas, of course, get a couple of, you need new titles, you need fresh IP every now and again. But
Yeah.
there are certain games where you've got the system already in place, you've got the mechanics already in place. The quickest thing you could do in order to put out a great game that is relatively new is make a sequel to that game with a little bit updated mechanics, brand new story, etc., and use the assets. And then just refine on that, and just do that, because that's the quickest way you're going to get a big game out. With brand new games, I think they'll just take time, especially these days, because the technology is so vast and the tools that they've got so huge, and creating mechanics is so complex.
Yeah, and production quality went up and up and up over the years.
And they're like movie quality games now. We didn't have that.
Yeah, and gamers are spoiled, and
Yeah.
you expect certain things in a modern day game release, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously developers and studios and publishers have to look into this cost. I mean, Dustin Lambert in the chat brings up a great point. Paying 600 devs 200K per year each year for 6 years to make one game isn't a viable business anymore. And that's what we are seeing right now in the industry, right?
Yeah.
There's barely a month going by where we don't talk about certain studios getting shut down, right? We just talked about Warner Brothers earlier this week, shut down 3 studios. It's happening all around us because the cost structure is just not there anymore. And I'm fully with you that I want to have the soul and the human touch games.
Yeah.
But that isn't to say that there aren't things you can definitely make. An AI doesn't get sick, an AI doesn't take vacation, and it works 24/7 and it costs you barely nothing, right? And that's just a harsh reality. And then, yes, there are people that, or jobs in general, not just in game development, that will become unnecessary thanks to AI, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a sign for people to, okay, you need to look at what skill set you provide. Yeah, what can an AI not do in game development? It's hard for me to think about an AI coming up with great new gameplay mechanics, an ultra deep story, and so on.
Yeah.
The making consistent worlds that feel like people are really live in that world and things like that. But generating sound effects, generating even voice acting, generating assets like textures, levels that then only a developer has to like check for consistency and things like that. There are many things, and at the end of the day, we don't want studios to shut down because they couldn't develop the game as a viable business case, right?
Yeah. I think Gina's put it well in chat here. He said if AI can help games and series cut out 2 to 3 years in development time, then I'm all for it. If it just means smaller teams to save money and still take 6 or 7 years for a game, then what's the point? Well, he's not wanted. Like, if it's still going to take 6-7 years to create a game and you've got AI assist, and what is the point? Because it's not doing any benefit. If it's, however, shaving off a few years and streamlining the development time, and it's speeding the process up, and you're getting games out quicker, then go for it. If it makes their job easier, but if it makes their job easier, but they still take 6, 7, 8 years to create a game.
Absolutely.
What's the point?
Absolutely. Sin in the chat says the absolute quickest way to speed things up is to shrink the scale and budget of games in general.
I agree on that front, you know. Double A games like we've seen Avowed. We don't need so many, because we went through a phase, especially I think it was not last year, the year before, where we had like loads of like 100+ hour games, and you're like, I just don't have the time for these monolith games. Like, not only that, I just don't have the energy. Like, I play one of these big games at like a couple of 100 hours every now and again, because at some point you just don't have the energy to sit there through such a long game. And then you get the likes of Avowed coming out, which are AA games, and they're like less than 30 hours. And then you get Here's a Like Games bringing out their new Split Fiction, that's like 12 to 15 hours. Like, what's wrong with these games that are like between 10 hours and 30 hours long? Like, that's brilliant. That's a nice sweet spot. Not everything has to be massive.
Yeah, I do agree. Not every game has to be 100+ hours game. While occasionally I love those, but then a game really needs to be good. If you're asking for a time investment of 100 hours of mine, you better be good. You better be really good.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm not gonna finish that game. But it's not just about game length, 100 hours plus gameplay. Even in smaller productions, the overall production quality and production standards have gone up.
Yeah.
People are expecting proper 3D surround sound. And
Yeah.
it needs to be in an absolutely top-notch quality. Nobody wants to listen to a gun that sounds like you're dropping a tin can,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just it. And people want a game to look like an absolutely photorealistic masterpiece. People are expecting that, even though, again, we talked about this earlier about not going for a photorealistic art style, but it's dropped that gorgeous, but expectation is there. Yeah, Naughty Dog wouldn't be. I mean, if you look at things like The Last of Us, yeah, it's a 15 to 20-hour game. We're not talking about a 100-hour game, but that game lives off of its production quality, of the visuals and animations and everything nailing it. And you have to have like massive investments into motion capturing and facial animations and everything. And yeah, if the AI can do that for a small percentage of the costs, yeah, of course developers are going to jump into that. I'm not saying that AI can do already everything, but if you look at the advancements in AI over the last 3 years, where have we been 3 years ago? Where are we today? Like, that's insane. That's insane. And yeah, that I think it's just the overall expected production quality, is something that made the industry into what we are today. And I also do agree with Dustin Lambert, who has said in the chat that the human touch has also been partly responsible for the mess that gaming is right now, and that's also very true.
Yeah.
It's not everything that is touched by a human doesn't need to does mean eventually it's going to be better than if it's created by a tool, so I'm really not looking as pessimistic as I've seen many people talk about that kind of stuff on social channels and other podcasts I listen to. I think it is an opportunity, and developers, again, you will always need developers in some sort of way, but you probably need different skill sets.
Yeah.
And AI also needs to be programmed, and AI also needs input. And so on. You just need a different kind of skill set in game development, and maybe someday we will not have this fact that every 5 years a game needs like a year longer to make, because that's what happened. We used 15 years ago, we had like a AAA game took 2 to 3 years to make, right? Now then it took 4 years. 5 years later, it took 5 years. And now we are at this point where we're looking at 6 to 7 years development cycle. And you accumulate that with increased salaries and increased expectations, and everyone needs to make this much money, but everyone also loves his work-life balance and so on. And this is just a combination. And of course, tools will arise that will take care of a lot of the manual work.
Yep.
So I see that as a chance actually for the game industry to grow, and I just don't hope that it leads into
Yeah,
games.
we've got to hope it helps reinvent the industry and not take over the industry. I think we hope it makes it streamline and make things more productive and quicker. But not change it where someone can, because there's bound to be developers out there, horrible little developer, or this one-time chancer that tries to create a game entirely by AI and cons people. There's going to be so many of them when AI gaming comes out. There's bound to be. You're going to get loads of people just trying to pull a fast one and get an AI to create an entire game.
Yeah, agree. So, yeah, Dutch. Let's see where this will eventually end up. But again, technology is advancing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like every tree in an Assassin's Creed Shadows game has been made by hand.
Yeah.
We are already using these kind of tools that generate you assets, textures, and so on. And this is just a continuation of that, right? Playtesting games and so on. There are so many things where an AI just can do a lot of things and actually help speed up game development and make it more attractive again for investors, which we can talk all day long whether, and then the investors make more money and get more dividends and so on. But at the end of the day, someone has to put in 100 million, 200 million, whatever amount of dollars to make a game for 6 years. It's an upfront investment, and someone has to give and pay that money. And of course, if you invest $200 million into a product, you kind of expect your return of investment to be high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Dutch, let us talk about a game again.
Okay.
I think a game we are both looking forward to very much, and that is the Elder Scrolls 6. It made some headlines this week because a former developer actually leaked a couple of things. We should still take everything, of course, with a grain of salt. But apparently, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to play in Hammerfell. And he also talked about that it might have ship mechanics in there.
Ooh.
So you can create your ships and sail and have naval battle actually in the game. It sounded to me very much or very similar to what they did in Starfield, where you could build your own spaceship and have space fights.
Yeah.
And apparently,
I mean, I'd be up for that. Who doesn't want to be a pirate?
Yeah, I mean, if it's good,
yeah.
if the game play mechanics are good,
all they've got to do is speak to Ray and ask them how they did their ship mechanics for Sea of Thieves, and they'll be fine. And this sea, just get them to do all their water. The guys from Sea of Thieves, you do the water and the ships. We'll do the rest.
Interesting. So, of course, we should take that with a grain of salt.
Of course, big grain. Large
grain. But it is something, it is a rumor that doesn't sound unrealistic. I mean, Bethesda, since their games are so massive, right?
Yeah.
Whether you look at the Fallout series, the Elder Scrolls series, or now the Starfield series, they are super massive games. And of course, they are using certain mechanics again and reinvent certain mechanics or port certain mechanics over. They did it in the past from Elder Scrolls to Fallout, from Fallout to Elder Scrolls, and so on. Yeah, and then into Starfield. And if you remember, it was one of the things that was one of the criticisms against Starfield. It just feels like a sci-fi Bethesda game, which it was, and it was fantastic. But of course, you could tell that this is, and now they've built certain mechanics for Starfield, like the shipbuilding, and why not bring that over into the high fantasy setting? So it kind of does sound something that isn't unrealistic.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. No, I'd be up for that. If they introduced that, I'd be up for it. Definitely. Can't be interested.
Definitely. And it's also something that was leaked through that it plays in Hammerfell. Which I'm totally fine with.
Yep.
I mean, area we haven't seen in the Elder Scrolls games properly. It's it would make sense, right? So that brought also up the discussion about when to expect that game.
2029.
You think it's that long?
Yep. It's Bethesda.
I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, when did we get the first teaser? That was 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, but that
Maybe
was
someone
at
in the
that point
chat.
they hadn't even started anything, and Todd had even said we haven't even started doing anything on it yet.
They started to work on prototypes at the time.
Yeah.
And they finished the prototype phase by now. They have gone into full production.
They
right?
have now, yeah.
And I remember it wasn't that long ago, like 2-3 years ago, someone close to when Starfield came out. A few months before Starfield came out, there was this interview with Todd Howard where he talked about full production at Bethesda Studios. And he said that usually full production phase doesn't take longer than 2 years within Bethesda Studio, because you do the prototypes, which basically generates all the gameplay mechanics. It tells you where the story is going, what are the gameplay mechanics, and so on. You nail that out, and then it's basically just world building. Yeah, you need to create all the assets, do the audio recordings, and that does sound like a lot, but it's actually not. That's how Todd Howard described that. And I don't think that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out this or next year. I do agree, but I don't think it's that far away.
I mean, to be fair, 28, 29 is not that far away. That's still 3-4 years. That would put it in line for maybe like a 6-year dev cycle.
True. That is true. I could also see it when in the ballpark of 27. Honestly, I don't think next year is already there, but I would really hope we see an update there, a little teaser, like in-engine teaser. Not another CGI.
Yeah.
We already have that. We have the CGI already. So, but at the June showcase this year, an in-engine thing, you know.
I think it could. I think you see, this is the Microsoft. Do they at this point need to show something that far out with the games that they've already got announced?
They don't need to.
Because the only issue they've got is if they announced it properly, because they've already announced it once. If they announce it properly, we know exactly what's going to happen. The moment they announce it properly, it's going to be every post and everything is going to be when's the gameplay, when we're seeing gameplay, when's the release date, when's the gameplay, and that's all they're going to get until the bitter end.
Yeah.
So, because Elder Scrolls are like a lot of the big IP that are in the industry. If you announce it, like a GTA, you need to have something ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, but they've shown GTA 2 years before they actually launched it. If they show it this year and release it in 27,
yeah.
I mean, I totally get what you're saying. Xbox isn't in the same position like in 2020.
Yeah.
All right. When they launched the Series X, they didn't have games.
Yeah.
And they knew they didn't have games for the next 2-3 years. They kind of had to lay out their roadmap. Yeah, they took that page right out of the playbook from Sony.
Yeah.
And laid out the roadmap. It's exactly what Sony did during the PS4 era, right? Where they also didn't have in 2013, 2014 big games, but they laid out the roadmap. Hey, we are doing a God of War, and we're doing Spider-Man and Days Gone and Death Stranding and all this stuff. And Xbox did this basically the same, about Fable. Everything got announced in 2020, 2021. And Perfect Dark and everything, and to lay out the roadmap. Hey, if you're investing now in our console, why not do that?
Yeah.
And Xbox isn't in that position anymore because they would be totally fine to only show games that come out over the next year.
Yeah.
Right? But I think so far we have, at least for the bigger releases, a pretty good idea what this next year looks like, right? We've seen Perfect Dark, we've seen Gears, we've seen
Fable, we've seen Clockwork.
Fable, exactly, and Clockwork, and so on. So we've seen the bigger things, and you kind of want people to be excited.
But you've also still got a Halo, which is on the new engine on Unreal, which they've teased. They did a little teaser of Halo. This is our new direction. This is what we're going to do now. And they showed a little bit of a clip on Halo and Unreal, which looked phenomenal. And then you've also got the new Forza Horizon when that launches, which, again, people, I think, forget even that could even launch this year. You never know, because it's been a while since we've had a Forza Horizon. Usually not this long between releases, and it's actually been quite a while.
It's been 4 years now.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's a long time.
But
for
Forza
a
Horizon, that's a
game.
big gap.
Yes, the biggest gap they've ever had. So, yeah, I agree. So they definitely are not in this position anymore that they kind of need to lay out the roadmap, because they are finally there to have like this games that come out speak for themselves. But on the other hand, you still want to tease people for the future and get them excited for the future.
Yeah.
And they also, it's heavily rumored that 26 is the year where we see new Xbox hardware, right?
Yeah.
And you announce that you give a little tease, get people excited. Hey, Elder Scrolls is one of the biggest names in gaming, right? It's a massive launch, and if you tease that and let people know, hey, this is what you can expect. So show some beautiful in-engine graphics, maybe not gameplay, and then you show gameplay next year. This is how this will play on our new console in 2027. I could see that. I could definitely see that. But on the other hand, of course, there is Todd Howard. And it's probably going to be the last Elder Scrolls game that Todd Howard is going to work on.
I think he said that himself as well, isn't it? I think he's kind of said that. He's not going to be making games forever.
Okay. Yeah, because even if it's not his last game,
it probably might. It will be his last Elder Scrolls. Yeah, it probably will be, actually.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll make another Fallout game and maybe another Starfield.
Yeah, and then and even then, that's pushing it. That's pushing it, because if you think that's what, 18 years if you're going by your 6-year dev cycle. If you're shortening it down, you're talking maybe 14 years at a nice. Like, I'll put him in his, like, what, 70s?
Or what do you mean, 70s?
He's years old. He would put him in his, like, he'd be like 70-something years old game director by that point.
Yeah, absolutely. He's somewhere in his 50s now. Yeah. You add another 15 years to that.
Yeah.
Before he gets to start to work on the next Elder Scrolls game. So that's definitely going to be his last Elder Scrolls game. I do agree. Yeah. So yeah, man, let's see if we get to see Elder Scrolls this year. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. It's crazy to think about that. It's been, what now, 15 years since we had Skyrim?
Yep. And I think their fans don't half remind them.
Yeah.
It's been 15 years!
That's nuts. That's absolutely bonkers. But Dutch, let us move over to the community questions of this week.
Yes.
Each and every Wednesday, we put up posts so people can write in questions or topics you'd like us to discuss. We put those posts up on Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube, and so on. We can't really put up posts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, even though we would really love to get some questions from our listeners over there. And this week, we got a bunch of cool questions, Dutch, as always.
Yeah.
Then Heffron writes in and says, my first time with an actual question. Hey, someone is always the first time, right? He asks this. with Whaleguard announced for PS Plus basic tier on Tuesday, how long until it goes to EA Play and with that to Game Pass? And what are your thoughts on it coming to PS Plus before EA Play?
What was this for? Sorry, what game?
Whaleguard, Dragon Age.
Yeah, no, I think you know what it is. I think it'll be on EA's thing next month. I just think they announced it on PS Plus anyway. Just for the crack. I think they'll pull it forward. When games don't do too well on EA, they usually put it into EA Access really quick. And it's happened a few times in the past. Not with as big a title, but some titles have just went straight on there within like 3 months. The ones that do well end up going 6 months to a year until you see them in there. So I think it's a very good chance you'll see Veilguard in EA Access next month.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Next or the month after, it won't be long. It won't be long. Even though I absolutely loved it, it was in my top 3 last year. Really did enjoy it, Dragon Age. It didn't do well sales-wise, and now that the hype on social is gone anyway, and you don't have viral marketing, there's really no need to not bring it to subscription services. And with PS Plus, it's there first. It won't take long until we see it in EA Play. I do agree. Yeah, the Big Bridge writes in and asks, if you had to make an official perfume based on a video game, what would it be and what would it smell like? I'd make mine about Doom with a strong note of burnt amber, musk, and peppercorn. Strong and fiery, just like the Doomslayer.
Nice. Avowed and burnt umber.
Burnt umber.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And cedarwood. There we go. Burnt umber and cedarwood. A manly smell.
See, since I've played The Witcher for more than 600 hours, and it comes up so often in that game how good Yennefer smells. I'd like to have that as a perfume, and actually
by the wife, it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sith Lord writes in and asks this: do you think Fable is delayed because of GTA, more time to polish, or ran into an issue? I think we pretty much covered that earlier, Sith Lord. I think GTA plays a big role.
Yeah, 100%. Massive role. Massive.
Yeah.
I think it's really, like I say, I think it's got the industry in a chokehold right now. No one knows what to do at the back end of this year, and no one's got a release date for anything.
Yeah, agree. Okay, Cucumber the 83 writes in. Very generic name, by the way, mate. He writes in, I actually wrote it in German, so I have to translate here freestyle now. Tell us a little bit about the podcaster life. How do you guys prepare for the show? What's behind the scenes that you have? How does the show come together?
Okay, in the past, right? In the past, it used to be a lot different. In the past, we used to research the topics. We used to talk about the topics a little bit beforehand. These days, especially me and Boxy, we are very good at talking about things on the fly. So if we got a topic and we've already read through it in our own time anyway, because we're kind of in tune with what's going on. When it comes to talking about topics on the show, when we go, okay, these are the things that have happened. We've both had a chance to have a look at them anyway. So when it comes to the show, everything we talk about is on the fly. So in the past, we used to talk a lot in the green room about the podcast, about what we're going to talk about, etc. Now we don't. now beforehand we're just like, how's your day been? What we've been up to? How's work? Such and such, like general catch ups, and then right, okay, I've got my starting soon screen on. You've got yours on. Let's get this show rolling, and that's it.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
the past, I mean, in the past we do, especially if it's different circumstances. If, for instance, Boxy's doing one of his Game of the Year shows, then he's going to research about all the big games. He's going to research the exact release dates for every one of them. Put them in all into the kind of areas to talk about. To be like, okay, this month this is what we had. This month this is what we had. This month this is what we had. And we'll talk about those months as they progress. And of course, each guest is notified about kind of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So that takes a bit of prep work. So yeah, it depends on the type of show we have. If it's a generic podcast these days, then it's just, okay, what's happened this last week? Okay, we've had a chance ourselves to look at these things so we know we can talk about it. We've had a chance to look at it. So we'll just crack on with it. In the past, when we were pretty new to the podcasting game, it took a lot of research and we'd have to read up on things and we'd send everybody the full details in case somebody on the panel hadn't read it or hadn't seen it. Be like, okay, here's the links and things. But now there's just the two of us. It's so much streamlined, so much more streamlined.
More streamlined. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you kind of getting used to it, and it became a lot faster to prepare for the podcasts. Of course, there's still like throughout the week when I read a certain news item or something, I put down a quick note or save a link or so just to remember, okay, what are the topics that could be interesting to talk about this week? Also the thumbnail making and so on. I know our thumbnails are not the best, but it's gotten a lot faster to do that.
Once you've got your template down, like mine's super streamlined now because it's just a singular overlay. So as long as I've got my main image centered to the right hand side, which I always try to do, and if not, then I'll maybe modify a singular image so that the main image is on the right. Then it's just a case of adding the overlay, add the new number for the podcast title, boop, straight up. And Boxy's pretty much the same. He has a template now, so you can just create the image that he needs to fit inside his little circle on the right. Boop, there we go, sorted.
There you go. Exactly. That's definitely something. Like you said, when we started, I used, for instance, to put down to the topic certain notes up front. So if we talk about this, I want to bring up this argument and that argument. And at some point, we stopped doing that because you just realized that you don't have to write your arguments to a certain topic down. It just comes as a natural discussion.
Yeah. And I think you tend to find that as well. It's especially there's very few podcasts there is where it's bona fide back and forward regular discussions and it's actually on the fly. These days there's a lot of I wouldn't say scripted, but you tend to find it's a case of, right, I'm going to make my point and then the next person's going to make his point, and there's no real discussion in between it. It's just people making points, and then occasionally someone will fire back with a report or anything like that, but there's no real discussions in some podcasts. It's just, okay, what's your opinion? Right next, what's your opinion? Right next, what's your opinion? And it's not really a discussion. With me and Boxy, what we've tended to find, especially on our podcast, even with panel members, is it's always been discussion based, and we tend to ensure it's more on the fly, so it's a little bit more. It's definitely more genuine that way, and it's
absolutely.
It just feels better because you can actually have it's just a conversation.
Yeah. That's what it is. At the end of the day, the podcast is a conversation between two good friends here, right? We pick up each other's arguments, and that's also why we digress so often in our podcasts, and then end up talking for an hour about something that we didn't had
wasn't even planned
on the list of topics.
But thankfully we've managed to divert away from the age stuff for a while because that's usually a good 40 minutes every day.
Yeah, man, that's what it is. If you want to, you gotta talk about age. You gotta. All right, Dutch. All right. So with that, this week's podcast already comes to an end. And I want to say a big thank you to our awesome community, everyone who tuned in here today live, and of course, everyone who listened after the fact on the podcast services or wherever you're listening. Thank you for making it to the end. The weekend is near. I need the weekend this week because work was absolutely exhausting. But yeah, I'm probably going to finish Avowed over the weekend, and I do hope that everyone in this community enjoys some video games over this weekend.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself after Avowed. You know, I don't know.
I know what is it. I know this feeling all too well, since when you have a game that you spend like 30, 40, 50 hours in and you loved it and you finished it, you fall into this, what am I going to pick up next? Because
it's just not scratching the same itch. Yeah, that's what I'm in now. I'm like, I'm going to get back on Avowed. I'm going to play and do a few more of the little things that I need to mop up. But then I'm like, I'm putting off moving on from it because I don't know what I'm going to do after it. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But yes, I digress as well.
You'll find something.
I will. You can find me in the usual places at WandrinDutch. So Twitter, WandrinDutch X. You can find me here at WandrinDutch. I have done a few more streams last week playing through Avowed. I probably will because I'm picking up Split Fiction. And I think I'm going to play that with General C. I think I'm going to be streaming that. That's not too long of a game. That's like 12. I've seen it's between 12 and 15 hours. Seen a lot of things from Joseph Fares about that as well, just mentioning that this kind of side questy bits are well worth doing. And he's done some things in the game that he has never done before and hasn't been done in gaming yet. So that's great. And of course, for those who are picking up Split Fiction, remember you can get everybody, you can invite anyone to play on any platform using the friend pass, so they don't need to buy it. You only need to get your copy. The other person can just download the friend pass and they can play with you for no cost. The only difference is they don't get trophies, they don't get achievements if you're playing them that way. You do, of course, but the friend does not. But at least you can play with them at no additional cost. Happy days. So yeah, I'll be doing that, and I'll probably be streaming it when that comes out, which is the 6th, which is Thursday. So I'll be probably doing it on the Friday next weekend. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. But yeah, it's been a blast. What about you? Tell people what you've got coming up.
Yeah, well, again, I'm going to finish Avowed. I'll be posting probably way too much about it on Twitter and Blue Sky. But I'm just having too much of a good time. And then I'm very much looking forward to the next podcast next week with you, of course.
Yes.
All right, guys. Again, a big thank you for tuning in today. We hope to see you back next week. And don't forget to game on.
Ooh.
All right.
Think you've got my number figured out. A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in. Don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. I'd rather be a dreamer.